Let's begin by dismantling the first illusion, the silence. A jungle waterfall is not a place of pure, unadulterated peace. That roar you hear is the sound of the earth eating itself, a monumental act of geological consumption happening in slow motion. Every single droplet cascading down those moss-draped cliffs is a hyper-aggressive solvent, a miniature molecular wrecking ball. The data, drawn from decades of hydrological studies in places like Costa Rica's La Fortuna and the Amazonian tepues, reveals that what appears to be solid, eternal rock is in a state of constant violent dissolution. The water, slightly acidic from absorbing atmospheric carbon dioxide and organic compounds from the jungle floor, relentlessly attacks the calcium carbonate in limestone or the silica in sandstone. It's a chemical warfare waged at a microscopic level, where hydrogen ions besiege mineral lattices, prying them apart molecule by molecule. This isn't erosion in the simple sense of wearing away. It's a precise, chaotic dismantling. The moss, that lush emerald velvet we so admire, is not a passive observer, but a primary accomplice. These are not simple plants. They are bryophytes, ancient life forms that operate as biological pumps and acid factories. Their rhizoids secrete organic acids that further etch the rock surface, creating microfractures for water to infiltrate and explode from within during temperature shifts. The waterfall is quite literally sculpting its own tomb, deepening its plunge pool, undercutting its face, and ensuring its eventual collapse. This process isn't measured in human lifespans, but in millennia. A timescale that renders the waterfall's apparent permanence a fleeting snapshot. The rocks themselves tell a story of unimaginable age, often sedimentary layers deposited hundreds of millions of years ago, now being unmade in a geological instant. The sediment clouding the pool below isn't mere dirt, it's the powdered skeleton of mountains that dissolve, history of continents being carried away to form future seabeds. This cycle, the relentless dance of uplift and erosion, is the planet's primary breath. Furthermore, the physical force of the water generates infrasound frequencies below the range of human hearing. Studies have shown this constant, low-frequency vibration can induce feelings of awe and unease in humans simultaneously, explaining the magnetic, slightly terrifying draw of these places. It resonates with our very bones. The mist rising from the base is another agent of change, a permanent humidifier that bathes the surrounding cliff face, enabling a whole other ecosystem of ferns, algae, and epiphytes to cling to vertical life, which in turn accelerates the rock's breakdown. So, the next time you see a serene waterfall image, understand you are looking at a battlefield. A slow-motion, beautiful, and terrifying battlefield where the weapons are weak acids and persistent droplets, the soldiers are primitive mosses, and the casualty is the bedrock of the world itself. This is the hidden violence of paradise, a necessary destruction that carves the stunning landscapes we cherish, proving that true beauty in nature is never passive, but is always the product of immense transformative power. Now shift your gaze from the rocks to the liquid itself. That water is not merely H2O. It is the lifeblood of the most information-dense, neurologically complex network on Earth, rivaling the internet in its complexity and far surpassing it in ancient wisdom. The jungle surrounding a waterfall is a single, vast, interconnected organism, and the waterfall is its beating heart. This isn't a metaphor. Cutting-edge research in fields like phytochemistry and mycology has unveiled a planetary-scale internet dubbed the Wood Wide Web, centered on mycorrhizal fungi. These fungal filaments form symbiotic networks with tree roots, but their nexus, their central processing unit, is found in the perpetually saturated, mineral-rich soils fed by waterfall mist and spray. The constant moisture and unique microclimate create the ideal data center for this biological network. Trees, through their roots, trade carbon, nitrogen, and phosphorus through these fungal pathways. A shaded seedling struggling for light can receive a subsidy of sugar from a towering, sun-soaked canopy tree, a transfer facilitated by the fungal network. But it goes beyond nutrient swaps. When a tree is besieged by pests, it can release chemical signals into the network, a kind of biological distress call. Neighboring trees, receiving this signal through the shared fungal nest, can preemptively ramp up their own production of defensive toxins. This is interspecies communication, a warning system operating silently beneath the forest floor. The waterfall area, with its nutrient slurry of dissolved rock and organic matter, supercharges this network. The fungi here are more prolific, the connections more robust. This ecosystem operates on principles that baffle our understanding of individuality. Is a tree a single entity, or is it a node in a forest-wide superorganism? The data suggests the latter. The waterfall's role is that of a primal server, providing the liquid medium and the mineral electricity that powers this silent conversation. Moreover, the water itself carries information. It transports chemical cues from upstream plants, animal pheromones, and microbial data packets in the form of complex organic compounds. A change in the water's chemical signature, detected by downstream organisms, can signal a change in the health of the upstream jungle, a drought, a fire, a new bloom. This river-to-ocean continuum is a flowing library of ecological data. The mosses on the rocks, which we previously cast as acid-secreting engineers, are also data receptors. They are supremely sensitive to air quality, humidity, and pollutants changing their growth patterns and chemistry in response, which in turn alters the microhabitat for countless invertebrates. Every insect that skates on the plunge pool's surface, every frog that lays its eggs in the mist-cooled crevices is a user on this network, both contributing to and drawing from the shared data pool. The waterfall, therefore, is not just a scenic wonder. It is the central hub in the jungle's intranet, a buzzing, wet, chaotic rare through which the intelligence of an entire ecosystem flows. It's a biological internet where the currency is survival and the language is chemistry, all humming along under the deafening roar of cascading water, a sound that masks the most sophisticated conversation happening on the planet. Beneath the surface of that shimmering, turbulent plunge pool lies a universe of extreme adaptation, a lesson in evolutionary engineering so brutal and perfect, it puts all human technology to shame. This is not a simple pond. It's a high-pressure, low-oxygen, high-sediment aquatic arena where only the most specialized life forms can survive, let alone thrive. Consider the physics first. Water falling from a height transfers immense kinetic energy, creating currents that can trap and drown large animals. The pool is a maelstrom of circular currents and upwellings. The oxygen content is a paradox. While the falling water injects atmospheric oxygen at the surface, the churning sediment and decaying organic matter on the bottom create anoxic, oxygen-starved dead zones. To live here, organisms have become masters of contradiction. Look at the fish. Species like certain loaches or catfish in waterfall systems have evolved bodies flatter than pancakes and suckers, so powerful they can cling to slick, mossy rocks in the direct path of the cascade. Their skeletons are often more flexible, allowing them to wiggle into crevices the current cannot reach. Their metabolisms are slowed, a necessary adaptation to the occasional oxygen scarcity. Their spawning strategies are ludicrously daring. Some must literally swim up the waterfall, a feat of endurance that ensures only the strongest genes move upstream, a constant eugenics program enforced by gravity. Then there are the invertebrates. The larvae of black flies and certain mayflies possess intricate silk anchors and hooks, turning their own bodies into living grappling hooks to withstand forces that would shred other creatures. They are the rock climbers of the insect world, and they filter feed on the very sediment that threatens to bury them. The mosses and algae, again, are not passive carpet. They are colonial organisms that create their own microcurrents within their dense mats, fostering miniature ecosystems of bacteria and protozoa, entire cities within the green felt. Some aquatic insects have gills designed specifically to extract oxygen from the highly aerated, bubble-filled water right at the waterfall's impact zone, a niche no other creature can exploit. But the most startling adaptations might be auditory and sensory. The constant, deafening roar renders conventional sound-based communication useless. Many frogs and insects in these environments have evolved to communicate via vibration. They tap on rocks, stridulate on stems, or use visual signals like bioluminescence or flash coloration, turning a limitation into a new language. Their entire perception of the world is shifted away from sound and towards touch and sight. This localized evolutionary pressure creates endemic species life forms, found nowhere else on Earth, perfectly sculpted by the waterfall's unique hammer. They are living fossils of adaptation, each a testament to millions of years of problem-solving against a relentless hydraulic press. When you peer into a plunge pool, you are not looking at a random collection of pond life. You are looking at the Olympic athletes of the natural world, gold medalists in the sports of holding on, breathing thin, and communicating in a hurricane. They are the ultimate specialists, and their very existence in such a hostile niche proves that life doesn't just find a way, it engineers a masterpiece. Now we must confront the most controversial and mind-bending layer. The waterfall as a potential quantum observer and a geological computer. This ventures into frontier science, where hard data meets compelling hypothesis, and it will redefine your understanding of reality. The core concept rests on two pillars: quantum biology and piezoelectricity. First, the water. A waterfall is a titanic generator of negative ions. As water molecules shatter against the rocks and each other, they lose electrons, creating a surplus of negatively charged air particles. This ion-rich environment, measurable with simple meters, is known to boost human serotonin levels, which is why we feel rejuvenated near them. But the effect may be far more profound on the biological network itself. Some theoretical physicists propose that the coherent, structured flow of water over a period, especially through the crystalline structures of rocks, could create conditions favorable for quantum coherence in biological systems. This is the idea that processes like photosynthesis in the surrounding plants, or even neuroprocesses in simple organisms, might exploit quantum effects like entanglement or tunneling, becoming more efficient in this charged, dynamic environment. The waterfall, then, could be acting as a natural quantum stabilizer. Second, the rocks. Many minerals, including quartz found in granite, are piezoelectric. They generate a small electric charge when subjected to mechanical stress. The constant, immense pressure of thousands of tons of water, falling, pounding, and vibrating the bedrock, generates a continuous, low-level piezoelectric field. This isn't science fiction. It's a measurable, geophysical phenomena. This subtle electrical field could interact with a biological network. Plant cells communicate via electrical signals, fungal hyphae conduct ionic currents. Could the waterfall's piezoelectric hum be a background frequency that influences growth patterns, directional routing, or even the chemical messaging of the wood wide web? It's a plausible hypothesis. Furthermore, consider the shape. The waterfalls form a constant renewal from a single source, fanning out into chaotic complexity before gathering again, is a perfect analog for a computational process. It takes a unified input, the river, subjects it to a chaotic, variable environment, the fall in rocks, and produces a transformed output, the aerated, ionized, sediment-loaded pool below. This is literally what an algorithm does. The moss and biofilm on the rocks, saturated with water and minerals, could be seen as a wetware processor, using ion gradients instead of silicon transistors to perform computations related to ecosystem management. The most staggering implication is the concept of geological timescale computation. If the waterfall and its associated biosphere are processing information through chemical, electrical, and quantum means, what is it calculating? Possibly the long-term optimization of the entire watershed's health. The slow feedback loops of rock erosion, sediment deposition, forest growth, and species evolution could be a form of computation whose clock speed is one calculation per century. We are only beginning to develop the sensors and models to even ask these questions. So, the serene jungle waterfall might be more than a biological hub. It could be a quantum ionized, piezoelectric powered, organic supercomputer running a million-year-old operating system whose program is the survival and flourishing of the jungle itself. It's a computer that built its own hardware from rock and moss, and its software is the DNA of every organism in its domain. This brings us to the final, urgent, and human layer, the illusion of permanence and the ticking clock. Every single one of these magnificent, intelligent, violent, computational systems is hanging by a thread, and the thread is being severed by human hands. The shocking truth is that the classic jungle waterfall, as a stable, thriving ecosystem, is becoming a relic. Climate change is not a future threat, it is a current disruptor. These systems rely on a delicate, hydrological balance, consistent rainfall feeding the river, stable temperatures maintaining the mist microclimate. Climate models show alarming predictions for tropical regions, intensified droughts punctuated by catastrophic floods. A drought lowers the river to a trickle, silencing the waterfall's heart, desiccating the moss, severing the fungal networks, and starving the plunge pool specialists. A catastrophic flood then arrives, a monstrous surge of water and debris that can physically rip the waterfall apart, scouring the biofilm and moss from the rocks, resetting millions of years of microecological development in a single day. Beyond climate, direct human intrusion is a scalpel. Deforestation upstream removes the natural sponge that regulates water flow, leading to more extreme swings between scarcity and flood. Tourism, while raising awareness, carries a deadly cost. The oils from our skin, the microplastics from our clothing, the chemical residue from sunscreens, all poison the very water that is the system's lifeblood. The simple act of people trampling the banks for a photo compacts the soil, destroys fragile understory plants, and introduces invasive species that can overwhelm the specialized endemic life. The noise pollution from generators and vehicles drowns out the vibrational language of frogs and insects, disrupting reproduction. The data is clear and heartbreaking. Ecological surveys comparing visited versus pristine waterfall sites show a staggering drop in biodiversity, a simplification of the complex web into a more generic, hardy, and less interesting ecosystem. We are literally dumbing down the biological supercomputer. We are erasing the data centers of the Wood Wide Web. We are causing a mass extinction of the Olympic specialist species that cannot live anywhere else. And we are doing it all while capturing the perfect Instagram shot, blissfully unaware that we are photographing a dying entity. The moss-covered waterfall is not just a beautiful place, it is a canary in the coal mine for planetary health, the symphony of intertwined systems whose music is fading. Its loss would be more than the loss of a scenic view. It would be the silencing of an ancient conversation, the corruption of a vast, living database, and the failure of a quantum geological computation that has been running flawlessly for epochs. We stand at the precipice, not of the waterfall, but of a decision. The story of this place is no longer just about water and rock, it is about us. Will we be the generation that listened to the roar and finally understood its message of intricate, fragile connection? Or will we be the footnote in the planet's history that heard only noise before switching off the system for good? This is where you move from viewer to guardian. The understanding you now possess is not for passive consumption. It is a tool and a responsibility. Your call to action is threefold and immediate. First, weaponize your curiosity. Don't let this end here. Dive into the comments. I've pinned links to peer-reviewed studies on mycorrhizal networks, piezoelectricity and geology, and quantum biology. debate, ask hard questions, and build upon this knowledge with this community. Second, transform your travel. If you are ever blessed enough to stand before such a place, be a pilgrim, not a tourist. Follow every leave no trace principle religiously. Advocate for regulated, low-impact visitation. Support the local conservation NGOs, not just the tour operators. Your wallet is a vote for the future you want to see. And third, amplify this signal. Share this video with one person today who needs to hear this. Not just a casual share, but send it with a message. Watch this. It changed how I see the world. Smash that share button. Post it on your story, embed it in your blog. Every new pair of eyes that sees this truth strengthens the collective we'll need it to protect these wonders. The waterfalls roars a call. This is your chance to answer. Subscribe, because next week we're applying the same lens of hidden connections to another sacred ecosystem on the brink, and you need to be here for that conversation. The time for awe is now. The time for action is now. Be part of the network that saves the network.